Hey guys, what is going on? Lego Man 123 here, and welcome back to another top 10 video, where today in this final episode, I'll be counting down my top 10 The Legend of Korra Avatar State moments. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off at number 10, we have Rebel Spirit, and this happened in the first episode of Season 2, when Jinora, Iki, and then I believe Milo plus Korra were having a airbending scooter race on Air Temple Island, and then just before they got to the finish line, Korra went into the Avatar states. It's a very quick moment, but I find it really cool how she actually did do that while on her air scooter. And then I believe it was Iki who did accuse her of cheating. I thought it was pretty funny because, like, some people do say she was actually doing it so then Aang could actually play with his grandchildren, which I think is a pretty interesting idea, but I thought it was definitely really funny, and it was definitely quick, but I really did enjoy this moment. At number 9, we have A Breath of Fresh Air, and this happened in, I believe, the first or, like, some of the first couple of episodes in Season 3, I believe. And this is when the spirits are sort of overtaking, or like the spirit vines are overtaking Republic City, like they're overgrowing, over buildings and all that, destroying stuff. So then Korra uses like the new power she actually did sort of learn and sort of not master, but sort of get the hang of it in Season 2, where she could like sort of calm down evil spirits and like sort of make them go back. So it was really cool just to see she went like straight into the Avatar state, like her eyes glowed, and like she could very easily do it because in Season 2 she did sort of struggle to actually make sort of spirits disappear and all that, and like go into the environment, and to actually see her do it this way was definitely really great, and to see how she did use the water was definitely really cool as well. At number 8, we have Beyond the Wilds, and this happened in an episode in Season 4 when Korra returned to Republic City after everything what did happen in Season 3, and like she was trying to cope with all that. And in Republic City, the spirits had pretty much taken over, or like the spirit vines had pretty much taken over most of Republic City, and they started like abducting, not children, but like pretty much anyone who sort of trespassed in a way. So then Korra has to enter the spirit world, and like there's this sort of a green sort of ball thing with the people what the spirits have sort of like taken to their world, and like Korra can only be the one to actually save them, so she does enter the spirit world, and she like touches the sort of glowing ball, and she does enter the Avatar state, and I thought it was definitely really great with like the music, because it was definitely really enjoyable with the music, and I think it worked really nicely with this scene, and to see Korra sort of use her, not elemental power, but her avatar state in the spirit world was definitely really enjoyable. At number 7, we have Endgame, and this happened in the final moment of Season 1, because Korra did lose her elemental powers of fire, water, and earth, because Amon did take them away with bloodbending, but she still does have air, because she did, I wouldn't say learn it, but she did, like, understand, like, the meaning of it, and, like, how to actually use it after Amon did take her bending away, so she did have that elemental power, and she's really upset about this, because with, like, out the other elemental powers, basically, you can't be the Avatar, because, like, you just an airbender in a way, so it was really interesting with that part, and she actually, I think it's in the Southern Water Tribe, and like she's really upset about that, but then while she's like sitting there crying, we actually do see Avatar Aang come in, and I believe he says something along the lines of, when we're at our lowest point, we're at our, oh, I can't remember the exact detailing of it, oh, it's something very similar to that, like something Avatar Roku would have sort of inspired Aang to say, and it was really cool to see Aang actually not. It was almost like energy bend Korra to actually regain her elements, and like basically we saw all the past avatars. We saw Aang, Avatar Roku, Kyoshi. It was really cool to actually see that, and then Korra did something really cool where she basically glowed her eyes up, or like her eyes glowed, and like she was then beginning to control all of the elements, which was definitely really great to see, especially with the music. And then after that, she does go back to the Southern Water Tribe sort of camp in a way, and she does give Lin Bei Feng's sort of elemental power back by actually using a really cool technique, which I believe was energy bending. I'm not 100% sure on like how she actually did do that, but I believe it was energy bending. It was just really cool to actually see how she actually did do that, and like Tenzin, I think like Katara, and then like most of Tenzin and Pema's children, they were all like shocked to actually see that actually happen, and I was definitely as well shocked to actually see that happen, how Korra could actually like almost give elemental powers back to the people who actually did lose them from her mom by actually using a pretty advanced technique of sort of energy bending in a way to actually unblock like the chakras and all that. At number 6, we have the Battle of Zefu, and this happened in, I believe, like maybe episode 5 or somewhere in between that in season 4, and this was when Korra basically came out of hiding in a way, and like she went to Zefu with, I believe, Iki, Janora, and Milo to actually sort of go there and stop Kuvira because she wanted to take over Zefu. And it was really interesting, but also pretty shocking to actually see Korra go back into the Avatar state after everything what did happen, because like she was in the Avatar state while getting, or like while the poison of Mercury was inside of her body, so a lot of really bad memories the last time she actually did go into the Avatar state. But I thought it was definitely really brave, this decision she did make, because to save the people and like sort of save Zefu, she had to make this sacrifice on herself, and I thought it was definitely really shocking to actually see that she would do this. But it was definitely pretty epic with like the rocks and like the sort of airbending she was doing, and Kuvira was definitely really shocked when Korra actually went into the Avatar state. But the Avatar state in this episode really didn't last too long, because as she was like lifting up a rock, like a boulder, about to, I wouldn't necessarily say kill, but like maybe seriously harm Kuvira. As she was about to do that, like Kuvira did turn her head, and then Korra sort of had some really bad memories of like her being in the Avatar state while the Venom was in her, or the sort of Mercury, and it was shocking to actually see that, because she still hadn't sort of gotten over the fact that that actually did happen to her, which I think is definitely reasonable, and I'm really glad like this actually did happen, because it was definitely interesting to see this happen. And why I'm glad this happened was because I really liked how Korra just didn't go straight back into the Avatar state and like seriously harm Kuvira. She actually had to go through this sort of stage of letting go of her past enemies before she could actually take on Kuvira, because if straight away she could just take out Kuvira and save everyone, then there really wouldn't be a really good season 4. Next we have number 5, and it is Day of the Colossus, and this was the final episode of Season 4, when Tenzin, his children, some of the Airbenders Team Avatar, including Korra, Mako, Bolin, and Asami, were taking on the giant Colossus in Republic City, and Korra did this really cool thing with the Avatar state, where she was using a technique which you sort of see as waterbenders, where like they sort of get the water and like sort of make a sort of transportation with it, with like a sort of swirly motion and all that. And to see her actually do this with airbending was definitely really interesting. And then we do see her like grab some boulders and throw it, or like sort of bricks in a way, but like really big bricks, and like throw it at the Colossus. So just to see all the power in her while being the Avatar, or the Avatar state, was definitely really enjoyable, because like even the Avatar state really couldn't stop the massive Colossus with all the power she actually did have, which I think is definitely really shocking to actually see that, but also really interesting, because like if the Avatar state could easily destroy the Colossus, then I really feel like it'd be a really not enjoyable battle as much as it was, because like destroying it just straight away would make it really boring, and to have like not an invincible sort of Colossus, but a invincible Colossus on the outside was definitely really interesting because not even all the power Korra did have while in the Avatar state could stop it. At number 4, we have Light in the Dark, and this happened in, I believe, the second last or last episode of Season 2, because we see that Vaatu and Unalaq actually do rip out Rava out of Korra. That was definitely really shocking to actually see that, but also really sad because us as the audience know that if Rava does get ripped out of the Avatar, then there could be no more Avatar. The Avatar cycle would be broken, so it was definitely really shocking to actually see that happen. But then, as like this sort of moment does happen, Korra and Rava actually do sort of float up and fly to where the 2 points meet, where the harmonic conversions did happen, and as they touch it, that was definitely really great to see that Korra and Rava actually do recombine, and to actually see her glowing blue in the Avatar state with Rava actually inside of her was definitely really cool to actually see that. And also really shocking because I really didn't think that would happen. Like, they restart, in a way, the Avatar cycle because they did recombine. And then, like, the harmonic conversions does stop. So it was definitely really interesting to see that. But by far, definitely really cool to actually see her in the Avatar state like that. Now moving on to 3, we have Darkness Falls. And this happened with the battle between Korra and Unalaq, who is her uncle, and it was definitely interesting to see this battle because, like, as she was getting slowly crushed by, like, the 2 pieces of, like, sort of ice, we really did feel like, well, this might be the end of Korra. Could, like, darkness sort of rise over good or, like, light? So it was definitely shocking to actually see that. But then in a moment between Korra and Rava, like, they're sort of speaking to one another. I thought it was definitely interesting because in Avatar The Last Airbender, we really didn't have that connection with Aang, with Rava. So it was interesting to see it between Korra and Rava. And, like, as it sort of fades into darkness between them, it does turn out to be really epic because she sort of does explode in a way out of, like, the 2 pieces of ice. And, like, she does go into the Avatar state, and, like, I'm not 100% sure, but it kind of felt like Rava was sort of controlling Korra at that moment because, like, her voice was a little deep, but it wasn't as bad as Unalaq being controlled by Vaatu because, like, Vaatu had completely controlled him and he had, like, no power. But then Korra had a little power, and the battle between them was definitely really great to see. Next up, at number 2, we have Venom of the Red Lotus, and this happened in, I believe, the final episode of Season 3, when Korra was captured by the Red Lotus members, and, like, she was all chained up, and they were going to put mercury into her body to actually sort of trigger the Avatar state, and, like, Korra, as the poison does enter her body, she's cutting in and out of it, because I believe she was actually doing that because the Avatar state is a defense mechanism because if anything harmful or pretty much anything happens to your body, the Avatar state is there to protect you. But the only problem with that is if you get killed in the Avatar state, then the Avatar cycle will be destroyed forever. So I think she was cutting in and out of it, so then that wouldn't actually happen, so then the Avatar cycle could continue. And it was definitely really shocking to see the poison actually go into her body and her reaction to it. But then the most coolest part did happen where she did go into the Avatar state and she was all chained up, but to see all the power she does have in the Avatar state in this moment was definitely great. She did take on 2 other members of the Red Lotus, sort of a gang, and I think she did kill them. I'm not 100% sure. I think she only killed, no, I don't think she killed any of them, but she just sort of harmed them. It was definitely great to see the battle between them. It was also pretty epic because, like, the other Red Lotus members, they were getting their butt kicked by Korra, who was slowly getting killed by the poison and chained up. And just to see all the power she does have in the Avatar state was definitely great to see, and some of the moves she did do were definitely great as well, because one of the Red Lotus members who have arms as sort of water, she did throw like ice at Korra, and as it got closer, where Korra like sort of breathed out fire to actually sort of melt it. That was definitely a really great move. But just the amount of power Korra did have in this moment was definitely pretty epic. And finally, at number 1, we have The Last Stand, and this happened in the final battle between Korra and Kuvira in Season 4, because after her Colossus, Kuvira's Colossus got basically exploded, basically herself and Korra, I wouldn't say get like blown up, but they sort of like, from this sort of massive sort of explosion, they sort of get swept away into like the main part of the sort of spirit vines and all that, and the sort of spirit gun is actually attached or like sort of being hung by some of the vines, and like Kuvira does find it, and as Korra like enters the sort of spirit forest or like spirit vines, like basically Kuvira shoots it, and then after a couple of moments it does begin to sort of come out of control, like it begins to like shoot out of control, like Kuvira's not controlling it, and it begins to slowly destroy like the spirit vines and all that. And then basically after that, I think Kuvira like loses control of it, and like she goes onto the ground, and then Korra, I wouldn't necessarily say comes out of nowhere, but she does come, and then she sort of makes this force field by going into the avatar state and stopping this sort of spirit vine explosion, or like sort of spirit ray vines from actually hitting Kuvira. That was definitely really shocking to see, because like after everything Kuvira had done, basically wanting to take over Republic City, taking over Zefu, pretty much having all of the Earth Kingdoms and like the small villages to herself, everything she had done, Korra would actually sacrifice her own self to actually protect her, which I thought was definitely really interesting, but also really shocking. But I'm really glad she actually did make that decision, because instead of just seeing Kuvira become exploded by the spirit rays, she actually did sacrifice her own self, and it was really awesome to actually see that, because like she did come and like sort of stand in front of Kuvira and then basically switch on the avatar state, and then she began to create, I wouldn't say a force field, but there was like some sort of force field thing happening. And I also think, I'm not 100% sure, but it kind of felt like she was using some very advanced technique of energy bending, but I'm not too sure on that, or it might have been sort of another sort of bending type. But it was definitely really awesome to see this with like the music, and then like these sort of beams of spirits, or like the spirit ray gun thing, the sort of rays of it, they sort of enter Republic City, and like they sort of sweep over, and like Tens and his children like go for cover Asami, but then it sort of reverses back, and just seeing that was awesome with the music. And then it sort of comes back to the sort of spirit forest where the vines are, and it sort of goes into the ground in a way. It sort of reverses back into the ground and then shoots up. That was so awesome to see with like the music, the colors. It was really enjoyable to actually see that happen. So I hope you guys did enjoy this top 10 video as much as I did making it, because as always with these types of videos, I really did enjoy sharing my thoughts and opinions on my top 10 The Legend of Korra Avatar moments. I would definitely love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. And if you have your own The Legend of Korra Avatar state moments, I would definitely love to hear it down in the comments below. So as always, hope you guys did enjoy this video, and I can see you soon. Goodbye.